Do you think there is enough, is there enough work done? Is there enough focus on the importance of adaptation?
Well, I definitely, my answer would be that there is some work being done, but definitely there's not enough. For the small island states, we are faced with major issues as far as climate change is concerned, and adaptation is the only way because it's going to happen one way or the other. So definitely there's a lot of work that needs to be done for us to better understand exactly what works and what doesn't work. At the moment, we're still at very much at pioneering positions. So there is a need for much more work to be done in that line of work.
Why do you think enough hasn't been done already? Because there's plenty of focus on mitigation and ways that we can mitigate the effects of climate change, but adaptation seems to be sort of bubbling beneath the surface, but never that high up on the agenda.
Well, adaptation is happening. I mean, the issues, the problems are happening right now. I mean, if you look around the world, the problems of flooding, the issue of drought, lack of water, and even storm surges, sea level rise, and other problems. You know, all these natural catastrophes that are happening in link with climate change and climate. And the measures that we've had in the past, you know, the traditional ones, some of them do work to a certain extent, but they don't work, in all cases. So, and a lot of techniques still, you know, we need to understand a little bit better how do we make them work for different areas, because some of them will work in some areas, but they might not work in other areas. So we need to get a better understanding exactly where and when to use what.
Give us an idea of what we mean by ecosystem-based adaptation.
Well, basically what it talks about is that for the small islands, which is easier for me to talk about, is that you use the natural system, basically starting from the forest right on the top of the hill. You look at the water catchment areas, the rivers, the wetlands and all the aquifers and all the system, and you manage it right down to the very bottom, to where you have the marine areas, the coral reefs and marshes and mangroves and seagrasses and all that. So you look at all of that and you see how best that you can manage them so that they then keep on providing the ecosystem services that they've been providing to mankind for so many years, not only to mankind but also to biodiversity in general.
And in your case in the Seychelles, what kinds of projects are we talking about here?
Well, we've started with a project that has been that is funded by Adaptation Fund, where we're looking at how do we manage or better regulate the hydrological system from heavy rainfalls. You know, because now we've got these extremes of prolonged droughts when you have no water, and then you have at times when you have major rainfall, which leads to flooding in the coastal plains and so on. So we are looking at how we can better use our forests and our water catchment areas and also the wetlands to better manage the flow and regulate the flow of water during those periods so that there is enough water during the dry period for man and biodiversity, and during the time that you have extreme storm, that the flooding does not occur straight away, that the water is regulated and that it flows a little bit slower. Because when you live on an island, the water that falls, you know, the distances are very small. So basically within a couple of days, the water just rushes through and down into the sea.
Can we adapt our way out of climate change? Is there going to be enough potential for adapting ecosystems, different environments to cope with the effects of climate change?
Well, I guess that's a question that we don't know yet, but we need to plan for the worst scenario, and we need to start now, because it won't wait for us, because in some cases, as I was saying, in Seychelles, we are already experiencing extreme drought period where we have zero water. You've seen last year in some countries in the Pacific where they had basically to fly in desalination plant, and we also are relying on desalination plant to provide water, for example, during the drought period. And that's very costly for small islands to be able to survive. You know, it brings up your cost of energy, and once you start burning more energy, fuel energy, you contribute more to the climate change problem. So So definitely the time to adaptation is here. And how do we do that? We have to learn as we go along. We have to learn by doing.